What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Heart of a Lion podcast. I am your host, Jay, and you have just stepped into the Lion's Den. If this is your first time listening, then go ahead and hit that follow or the subscribe button from wherever you're listening to the podcast. You can follow the page on Instagram at HoAL podcast. Again, that's at HoAL podcast, as well as you can follow the page on Facebook at the Heart of a Lion podcast. If you are a returning listener, then thank you for coming back for some more. And if you haven't already, then go ahead and hit that follow the subscribe button. Today is one of those days where it's like, it feels so good outside that you don't want to be in the house, or you don't want to be at work. You don't want to be doing whatever. You just want to be outside enjoying the weather. It's also supposed to be 90 degrees today. So my God almighty, but it doesn't feel like 90, at least not at the moment. So to me, it feels good. My wife always says I do and I'm trying to cut back on it. Let me say this. So my wife, historically she's not a big, I'm not gonna say not a big podcaster. She normally doesn't listen to the content that I do, in the sense that, like, you know, I do a lot of, in the past, I've done a lot of stuff on YouTube. I do a lot of creative stuff, but she doesn't always listen to it. Just not because she doesn't support me, just because, like, you know, she's into, you know, she might listen to a podcast, but it's a sermon. Or she's not really big on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook and things like that, you know, but she'll watch her things on Netflix or whatever show. Recently, however, she has started listening to my podcast. And one thing that she pointed out is that I do a lot. So I'm trying to cut back on that. She gonna hear this. Yes, baby, I'm talking about you, but I'm trying to work on it. I am trying to work on it. I also want to get her on a episode. I think it would be dope if I can get her on a future episode. I would love to get her on a future episode. Her and I have a couple other people in mind, but I feel like I can't get anybody else on the podcast before I get my wife on the podcast. So that is definitely a must for me to try to make that happen ASAP. But yeah, that being said, I hope y'all had a great weekend. I hope y'all are having a great day. I pray that y'all have a great week. This episode, I am going to talk about my life before Jesus. And when I say my life before Jesus, I don't mean my life before I started going to church. I talked about on an early episode how, you know, me going to church, but also me coming into a relationship with Jesus are two different things. You know, because I started going to church at 18, but I didn't really have an understanding of what that meant, you know, what a relationship with Jesus was like, until I was 21. And that's when I had an encounter with the Lord. So, you know, this is me talking about my life before Jesus, and man, was it a roller coaster and a whirlwind, and just so much that happened. And I can talk about it now. I mean, I've told bits and pieces of my story or share my testimony with people, but just I can talk about a lot of what I went through now because I've received freedom. Like, I have freedom in those areas, or I've been healed in those areas. Like, things that used to bother me don't bother me anymore. I might get passionate about certain things, but I've been healed. I've been freed. You know, I don't have the burden or the weight from certain things that have happened in my past. I don't have the weight of the insecurities, the weight of the guilt, the weight of whatever that has happened in my past, because I found freedom in Christ. And that's the reason why I can talk about different things. But, you know, that being said, my life as a kid was just one of so much joy. You know, I wasn't the type of kid that was bad. But at least my mom said I wasn't bad. I was just wild. I was very active. I love to play. You put me on a playground, you put me in an outside area, like I could play, I could do anything. I will find a way to have fun if you put me outside. And there was a lot of things that I did that was fun. There was a lot of things I did that was destructive, but I was just a kid that loved to have fun. And I mean, I don't know that I would have believed that I was wild had I not seen home video. Like we had home video. I don't know if anybody knows what this is in today's world, but we had what they call beta tapes, which was before VCR. But like home beta tapes of me in action, and I could see the type of kid that I was. Like, I remember one specific thing was like we were at my sister's second birthday party, and she's 2 years younger than me. We were at my sister's second birthday party, and my grandfather was telling me not to do something. And my sister's birthday party, which I always say, for me personally, I say before age of understanding, it's a birthday celebration, you know, because we're celebrating this child's life, but the child has no memory of it. So I would call it a birthday celebration. But anyway, we're at this celebration. It's in my grandfather's backyard. And I remember we had a slip and slide in the backyard, and he was telling me to stop doing something. And I just remember I picked up the inner tube and I smacked my grandfather across the leg with it, and then I ran. So like, this is just the type of wild stuff that I did. I was one of those kids where, you know, I just love to play. And I look at my daughter, I'm like, man, she's the exact same way. Like, she just loves to play. Sometimes she listens when she wants to. And it's like, I can't even get mad because I look at her, I'm like, that's little me. But yeah, just, you know, I had so much joy as a kid. I love to have fun. I love to play. I love to laugh. I was very active in sports. Played basketball. I played t-ball. I did swimming lessons. What else did I do? I was in karate. I used to go to summer camps and different things like that. I was always involved in something. My mom always had us in something. I don't know if it's because she needed the break or if she just wanted to have us active, but she was super, super, super involved. She always made sure that we were doing something. She took us to the playground. She taught us how to ride bikes. You know, she taught me how to rollerblade. She taught me how to do all these different things, and just ensured that we had great childhoods. And this is a childhood where you could like go to the playground down the street around the corner and like your parents not be there just because they know that you're going to be okay. In today's world, you can't do that. But yeah, it was such, man, I just remember having so much fun and having such a great childhood. And I was such an innocent child. And I think because I was such an innocent child, that's what allowed me to have so much joy. That's what allowed me to have so much fun, because like I wasn't like into, you know, the things that some of the other kids were into, just because like all I cared about was just playing. You know, you put me outside, I'm gonna play. You put me on a playground, I'm gonna play. You put me on a basketball court, I'm gonna play. You put me on a baseball field, I'm gonna play. You give me a kickball, I'm gonna like I just love to play. It didn't matter what it was, I just loved to play. However, that started shifting once I got into elementary school. You know, once I got into elementary school, like that's when I started encountering bullies. And I had a bully. It seemed like I had a bully every year. I don't think I had one in kindergarten, but I want to say every year, maybe I did have one in kindergarten, but I think I had a bully every year from kindergarten through 8th grade. And man, that thing sucked. It sucked. You know, looking back at it, like it helped produce me into the man I am. But going through it in those moments, it sucked, and it produced an unnatural, ungodly fear in me. I can't even say of men, because they were boys, you know, but it put an ungodly fear in me of man, you know, that made me that kind of sucked the joy out of my childhood, because I became fearful. And I was like, well, I hope I don't encounter this person, or I can't go to this place. I can't do this thing. You know, the bully that I had in kindergarten through 2nd grade, he was cool when he was cool, but when he wasn't, he wasn't. And I remember, there was one time him and I got into a fight, and he was much bigger than me. Like I was a small kid. I was a small kid, back then, in the sense, like, I was like on the shorter end where most everybody else was taller than me. And, yeah, so I was just small. I think which is what probably made me an easy target. And but this kid, he was much bigger than me. I remember one day, I think it was either kindergarten or second grade, one of them grades. I don't think it was first grade because I don't think we had the same class together. But in one of them grades, I remember we got into a fight. And the only reason I remember this fight is because somehow he wound up on top of me. Like I got knocked on top of a chair or on top of chairs. So I'm like laying across two chairs and then he's on top of me and he's hitting me and I'm hitting him. And yeah, I don't think that I lost that fight, but I also didn't win that fight either. But again, like he always picked on me, and I later come to find out that he picked on other people as well, and it was just because he was bigger than everybody, so he picked on other people. But again, when he didn't bother people, he was cool. Like I didn't mind being around him, but he was a bully, and then in third and fourth grade, I had gone to a new school, and I remember it was this bully who every time he saw me, he did something to pick on me or pick with me. I remember there was one time where he saw me in the bathroom. He pushed me on the bathroom floor, and I don't know how it happened, but my feet landed under my legs. So I'm sitting on my legs, and he like got on top of me and like wouldn't let me get up. And for the life of me, I was trying to, but was unsuccessful. Like I was reaching up, trying to grab this man's nuts because I'm like, he gonna get off me today, but I couldn't reach. But yeah, every time he saw me, he picked on me. So again, like these things are instilling fear into me, and I'm like, man, I just don't. Like, it wasn't enjoyable. I'm not gonna say I hated going to school, but when I would see them, like it was such a great fear that I didn't care to be there anymore in that moment. And then also in fourth grade, I got beat up by a girl, which it sounds bad. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I got beat up by a girl. But again, I was smaller than everybody else. And this girl at that time was much bigger than everybody else. Not in the sense of like the first bully that I had, he was like tall and wide. And this girl, she was bigger in the sense that she was just taller than everybody else. But we were playing keep away one day with this girl, Christine's purse, and I just so happened to be the last person to have Christine's purse. And I remember walking up to Christine and giving her the purse back. And then this other girl, whose name I'll leave out, but she came up and knocked me on the ground and then like had this machine gun punch where she was just like rapidly punching me in the back. And there was nobody to come to my defense. So I got beat up by this girl. Now, this next part, I do not condone, and I will never advocate for a boy or a man to do this, but I'm just telling you what happened because it's part of my story. That same day that I got beat up by this particular girl, the end of the school day, I remember getting out of class a little early. I don't remember how I was able to get out of class a little early, but I waited for her by the steps. I saw her when she got out of class. I said her name and she was like, "What?" I was like, "I got something to tell you." And she's like, "What?" And man, I decked her right in the eye. I punched her right in the eye and she started crying, and she walked to the office and I walked right beside her as she walked to the office, and she told on me. Now, I got detention for punching her in the eye and nobody saw it but her. Well, yeah, I guess she did see it coming. Let me not try to be funny, but yeah, I punched her in the eye and I got detention for it. There were multiple people that saw her beat me up and she did not get in trouble. I will also say I did not tell on her either. So she beat me up. I get detention. The way I looked at it was she beat me up and I got detention for it as a result of my reaction. And I say the reaction part, and because I'm going to come to a point, but I'm going to come back to that. Fifth grade, there were a couple of bullies that I had, who every day we're in band class. Every single day we're in band class. And they would sing that stupid song, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. And I hated that song. I hated that song because people put my name in the song. But they would sing that song every single day in band class. Mind you, school starts in September. At this point, we were in like May of the school year, and they're still singing the song every single day and they think it's funny. I'm in 5th grade, they're in 6th grade. So one day I got fed up. I turned around and I said, "Your mama," to one of them. And he got all in his feelings, and his friend was like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't talk about somebody's mom like that. Da, 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 da." And I was like, "Oh, you don't like it? Fine. I won't talk about your mama. Your daddy." Now, so they both got upset. They both got in their feelings, and they said they was going to beat me up after class, whatever. Again, now I'm getting scared. What was the reaction? Like, you were picking on me. All I did was say one thing to defend myself, and now you want to beat me up. So I waited like 20 minutes before I left to go back to class. And I told y'all before, like, I'm a kid that if you put me outside, I will play. And one thing that I love to do is play at the playground in my neighborhood. I absolutely love to play at the playground in my neighborhood. However, they said they were going to beat me up after this particular day, and their neighborhood wasn't far from my neighborhood. And I used to always see them walk past my neighborhood to go to the convenience store. Now I'm terrified, and I feel like I can't go to the playground in my own neighborhood because I don't want them to see me, and I don't want them to beat me up. I don't want them to jump me, because it would be easy for them to beat me up and then for nobody to see it, because oftentimes a lot of us kids would be at the playground, but there would be no adult supervision, just because, again, this was back in the day when you could just be a kid and be free. But I felt like I couldn't be free anymore because of these guys. So I think most of that summer, I found myself just staying in the house playing video games or playing in a back area of the neighborhood where you couldn't see me if they walked past. I could see them, but they wouldn't be able to see me. And when I did see them, when they would walk past, I would run to the house. I was like, I don't have time, man. And then that next year, I remember being in 6th grade, sitting in class. Those same two boys came through to say hi to the old teacher, which was not uncommon. Like, when you move on to 7th grade, you come back and say hi to your old teachers, whatever, da da da. They came back and said hi to the teacher, who was now my teacher. And then one of them, as he was leaving, leaned down and whispered in my ear, "We're still going to get you for what you did, or for what you said." And I'm just like, dog. So now it's like reinstilling fear into me. It was like all I did was defend myself from being picked on all school year. I said one thing, and now they want to beat me up, right? 7th and 8th grade, I got, by two different people, I accidentally bumped into a person in 7th grade, accidentally bumped into a different person in 8th grade. In both situations, I got pushed into lockers for no reason and was told to watch where I'm going. I'm just like, dog, I'm just trying to get to class. Like, why do I keep getting picked on? Again, it's instilling fear. It's instilling fear. It's instilling fear. Now, what started to happen, before I get to that, 8th grade, it's like I'm getting picked on everywhere I went. I remember specifically in 8th grade, there was this kid who used to get picked on by the popular kids. And I would always defend him. Like, yo, like, leave him alone. Like, don't just leave him alone. And he wouldn't say much, but I would always defend him. Yet when the popular kids weren't around, that same kid used to turn around and then joke and pick on me. So it's like, why am I defending this guy again? It's like, what in the world is going on? But then, I also, I didn't really say much. 7th grade, I remember there was this guy in my class who was friends with the bully from 5th and 6th grade. And he used to always pick on me. And then when I would say something, he would tell me that he was going to get his friends to come and jump me and this, that, and the third. But then 7th grade, I started like speaking up a little bit more. To defend myself, but in joking manner. And then in 8th grade, I remember being picked on and not saying nothing. And my friend Brian, would say, "Oh, Jay, you gonna let them talk about you? You gonna let them talk about you like that?" And then, man, that's when I just started like coming back with the jokes. I started coming back with the jokes real quick. So it's like, yeah, you could try to pick on me, but I got something to say now. And that summer between 8th grade going into 9th grade, I had my growth spurt. And going into high school, I remember that first week of high school, we was a few of us were like, playing with another guy that we were all friends. Like, we were playing with another guy, and I don't know what happened. What he says is that I punched him in the stomach. Now, I know for a fact I didn't punch him in the stomach because I know what it's like to throw a punch. He says that I punched him in the stomach. I did not. He punches me in my head. And I knew that he punched me in the head because I felt it, but I also didn't feel it because I had a little mini afro back then. But I took a step back and was like, yo, what in the world is going on? And I was talking to a friend of mine, like, yo, what in the world? Like, why did he hit me? And I'm standing there for like a minute, just processing what happened with my hands on my backpack straps. And then security comes and they take me into the office. And long story short, I get suspended my first week of school. And their reasoning was because we don't know what would have happened if security never showed up. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, huh? Like, I never threw a punch, but you're suspending me because you don't know what would have happened if security never showed up. So up to this point, like after this situation, I'm looking back and I'm learning that my reaction to other people have consequences. My reactions to other people have consequences, but also like my non-actions have consequences as well. Like if I stand up for myself, I get in trouble. If I don't stand up for myself, I'm getting in trouble. So like all this is doing is just like it's piling on. And then I get sent to this community center while I'm suspended to do schoolwork. And I realize, and I find out that one of the kids that was there, because he had also gotten suspended because him and 11 other people jumped one kid. And it made me feel like me, who did nothing wrong but got sent here, is just as bad as the kid who him and 11 other people jumped one person. So like, what makes me any different if I have to be sent to a place like this, right? And then, so it's like all that stuff piling on. I now have a growth spurt. And then shortly after this, we moved to a new neighborhood. So now it's like, okay, now I have to reestablish a name for myself just so I won't allow people to pick on me anymore. I have 3 younger siblings. I can't afford to allow anybody else to pick on me, as well as I can't afford to allow anybody to pick on my siblings either, because I don't want them to go through anything that I went through. I feel like I went through hell as a kid when I shouldn't have had to. You know, I had so much fun as a kid, but that joy, that fun, that love that I had was like being sucked dry out of me because I kept getting picked on. I kept getting bullied. When I would stand up for myself, I would, then there was a negative reaction because, oh, God forbid, you're not allowed to stand up for yourself, or if I don't do anything, you're still getting in trouble because we don't know what would have happened if we never, like, stuff like just stupid stuff that didn't make sense to me. So I began to grow, I don't want to say bitter, but I began to grow angry. So I moved to this new neighborhood and I just started standing up for myself. I was like, nah, like if I wasn't cool with something, I'm saying something. If I'm cool with it, okay, cool. And I just began to befriend a lot of the guys in the neighborhood, and man, 10th grade was hell. Excuse my language. I don't mean to say it like that, but I mean like in the sense of like heaven and hell. Like there was a lot of stuff that just went on in the neighborhood, in the sense where there are quite a few. Well, I have to start it from the beginning of how I remember it, in the sense that I remember there was one day where me, my homie Vaughn, and 2 other people were walking to these boys' house because we were going to go confront them. Me and Vaughn are just there tagging along because we were already outside. And the other 2 guys that we were with showed us that they had guns. And in my mind, I'm like, I hope it don't come down to it, but I'm already with them, so I'm going to go. Now, fortunately, they never pulled the guns out when we got to the house. They confronted them, but they never pulled the guns out. That same night, one of the people that we went to go confront got sent to the hospital. It was 5 of them. 4 of them got jumped, and the one who didn't get jumped went to the hospital. And his brothers, like, it seemed like relentlessly kept coming through the neighborhood, jumping people, every single time that they had the chance. And there was one day that following week where I was standing outside with one of the guys who I, went to the house with that had the gun. Him and I were outside, and I remember we saw this car speed past us, and he's like, what should we do? And I was like, man, I don't know, but the alley's right there. I look back at the car. I turn back to him, and he is gone. I took off down the alley behind him. and we went to the homie Melinda's house, and he was at the front door and I was in the driveway on my bike, and the guys ran up, and the brother was in the front. The brother of the guy that went to the hospital was in the front, and when he got to the driveway, he pulled a bat out of his pants. How it was a miniature bat, but still how he ran with the bat in his pants, I haven't the slightest clue. But he confronted my friend, and then he looked at me and started walking towards me. Now, he will start walking towards me, and I dropped my bike. And what I assume his assumption is because, again, I had this growth spurt. So he saw how big I was. Because I was like taller than most people not most people my age, but I was average height now. You know, I was even playing field, but I was also like, I was stocky too. So I assumed that because I dropped my bike, he assumed that meant that I was going to fight him, and he wanted no parts of that problem. And I was cool with that. But in reality, I dropped my bike because I was about to hop that fence because you ain't about to hit me with that bat. Like that was all that was cool. That was going through my mind. I was like, you are not about to hit me with this bat. But I was so because of this incident, I was so paranoid. I did not get jumped, thank God. I did not get into a physical altercation that day, thank God. But I was so paranoid that day that as a result, that entire school year, I carried padlocks with me in my pocket that I was going to use as a brass knuckle if I had to, as well as I also carried a pipe with me. So that way, if I have to defend myself, like I got this pipe on me at all time. And if I have to crack somebody's head across the head with it, then cool. If not, then cool too. The irony is 10th grade was the year I got into the most fights, but every time I got into a fight, I did not have a weapon on me. Whenever I had the weapon, I did not get into a fight. So I thank God for protecting me from me, and thank God for protecting other people from me because of what I had on me. Because at that point, I wasn't scared to use whatever I needed to use. But yeah, I was so angry. I had a chip on my shoulder. I didn't bother anybody, but if anybody bothered me, I was not afraid to speak up. Or if I see you outside, then we gonna have a problem. And my junior year was my worst year in school. Like I legit barely passed. The only reason why I passed junior year was because of SOLs, which is standard of learning tests. You know, if it was not for those SOLs, I would have failed the 11th grade and I would have had to repeat. I remember my English teacher in 11th grade, like just being flabbergasted with how high my score was. Cause I think 400 was passing and I got a 525. She was like, how is it possible that you you scored so high on this, but you're not applying yourself? And she just didn't know. Like, I was angry, you know, I was going through so much, just like internally, you know, I going through stuff at home too, you know, just home situation to me, you know, wasn't the best. And it no faults on my parents. You know, they're human too, and they had their own things going on. But just, you know, between home, just the neighborhood, your upbringing, like all these different things, like just shaped me into this angry person, and just me against the world. I just didn't care about a lot. I just really didn't care about a lot. You know, not to mention the fact that, you know, I'm even though like I'm physically bigger than other people and I'm standing up for myself now, because we're in high school, I also now have people calling me Gay J because they don't see me out here, you know, talking to these different girls, or Gay J because, you know, we don't know anybody that he's had sex with and different things like that. And I'm like, dog, it's like I can't win for nothing. I felt like I couldn't win for nothing because every time I turn around, somebody's picking on me in some way. You know, I legit lost my virginity at the age of 17, almost 18, not because I liked the person that I got with, but more so just so people would stop saying Gay J. That is the only reason why I did, you know, and I hate that it even came to that. I hate that it even came to that, but like that is the God's honest truth. You know, again, just me tired of being picked on, me tired of people always having something to say, you know, and just things, you know, bottling up one after another. I almost got kicked out of school my senior year because of an incident where it happened off of school grounds, but I hit somebody and it got back to the school and they said, oh, because your friends were there, it was potential mob assault. I'm like, it legit was nothing. I hit the one person. Nothing else came out of it. But because my friends were there, it could have been mob assault, and we're thinking about expelling you or suspending you for 10 days or expelling you. Like, these are the type of stupid things that I had to deal with. And the friends that I was with at that time, like, those same friends are the same ones who got me into church. Like, these weren't the I don't want to call them thugs, but these weren't like the guys from the neighborhood who were always fighting. Like, these are the ones who got me into church that I was with that night. So, it's just, man, I went through so much as a kid. I went through so much. And I think all of this bred insecurities, because it made me feel like I couldn't be accepted for just being me. I couldn't be accepted for a kid who just liked to have fun. I couldn't be accepted for a kid who just wanted to play, who just wanted to laugh, who just wanted to have joy. I couldn't be a kid who, didn't say anything back when people picked on me. I couldn't be a kid who didn't fight back when somebody hit me. I couldn't, be a kid who was okay with being a virgin. I had to lie about being a virgin until I lost my virginity. I had to verbally stand up for myself when I didn't want to be bothered. Like, I had to physically stand up for myself when people, were picking on me or taking advantage of my kindness. And dang, I feel like I'm getting like really passionate about this at the moment, but like all of this stuff, all of this stuff was so much that I had to let go of, because again, it made me very angry. And it wasn't until I came into a relationship with Jesus that I began to let stuff go. And sometimes I find myself where I'm still letting stuff go. And I've been going to church for 20 years now. It's been in a real relationship with Jesus for 17 years. But I'm finding like there's always still some like, okay, I need to let this go, or I'm still harboring this or whatever. And I don't ever want my kids to go through what I went through. I never want what I went through to be an excuse for why I treat my kids a certain way. I never want what I went through to be an excuse for why I treat my wife a certain way. I've learned in life that I need to be the change that I want to see. I didn't have a mentor. Okay, so let me work in that area and become the mentor that God would need me to be to others. I didn't have somebody to encourage me. Okay, let me be the encourager and allow God to use me to encourage others. And that also encourages me. I feel like, I didn't have the friends who were steering me in the right direction. Not just I had great people, but this is how you feel when you're young. Like you feel insecure and you feel like you don't have these things. So I didn't have the great friends, so, okay, God showed me, like, God cultivated me into becoming that great friend to others, which in turn allowed me to be a great friend to myself and allowed others to then be a great friend for me. I learned what to put up with and what not to put up with in friendship. I learned what to put up with and what not to put up in relationships. Man, I went through a lot in relationships as well. There were, countless relationships where I was in. And that's another thing. I loved hard and I love hard, but there were relationships that I was in high school or after high school where I cared and I loved hard or liked hard, whatever you want to say. And I found out that it wasn't reciprocated, or, you continue to care afterwards, but like it's just not there. It's not the same. And part of the reason, I found out that I was very different from a lot of people that I hung around too, because I wasn't raised, for lack of better words, I was not raised to be a hoe. I was not raised to be a pimp. I was not raised to be out here going from woman to woman. Like, I was raised on respect. I also wasn't necessarily taught how to talk to girls. So only thing I knew how to do was be a friend. Let me be a friend to somebody. And for a lot of people that didn't work because, they just want to get with me, or they just want to do this or do that. And I'm like, nah, like, I don't even know your name, or like, I don't even know anything about you. Like, I can't get down like that. But again, when you're in high school, people don't care about none of that. They just want to be like, oh, these two together, so they about to sleep together, or these two together, so they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. And I'm like, again, like I hear all this talk, but I don't know nothing about nothing. I don't know nothing about nothing. You know, I remember this girl approaching me in 8th grade about doing a sexual act, and I had no idea what the act was until I got to high school. It just because I didn't know. I was so innocent, and then it was like that innocence was being chipped away and chipped away and chipped away because I was being picked on, chipped away because people were always bothering me, or they weren't okay with me being innocent, even though I was okay with me being innocent. But all it did was breed insecurity. All it did was breed self-hatred. All it did was breed anger. All it did was just, fuel all this stuff in me. And then I would bottle it up, and then to a point where I would get to an exploding point, and it would make me mean. Like I was cool for the most part, but I had my moments when I was mean and I would go off on people. I would do stupid stuff. Like if you did something to me, I felt like I had to get you back worse. I remember there was this girl that I was talking to at one point, and we were chilling at this local joint called the Johnny Subs, and I remember I was drinking from a gallon of juice, orange juice, and she came and she tipped the orange juice and it spilled on me, and I took that gallon jug and I chased her out of the Johnny Sub, and I caught her and I poured the entire gallon on her freshly permed hair. And man, if she hears this, I apologize. I was not in the right mental state. But again, if people did something to me, it's like, I'm gonna get you back. I always took it too far because I wanted people to know, like, I am not the one to mess with. Do not bother me. I don't bother nobody, so don't bother me. Please leave me alone. But I thank God for where I am now, because God has given me so much peace and just allowed me to see, like, I don't have to be like that. I don't have to be that person. I can be different. I am not who I used to be, and I praise God for that. I praise God for the fact that I'm not who I used to be for me. I also praise God for the fact that I'm not who I used to be for other people, because I could be so unpredictable sometimes in the sense of my mouth. Like, people, like, if I got annoyed or irritated to a certain extent, like I was going off, cussing people out, doing this and the third. And I don't cuss anymore, which is why I apologized earlier when I was, saying heaven and hell and things like that. But I don't cuss, but I used to go off with cussing people out, go off when I reached that boiling point. But again, I thank God for where I am now, because I'm not who I used to be. I am a product of my environment, in the sense of like, yeah, this is where I grew up. This is how I live. I grew up in an area called the Highway. So I'm a product of the Highway. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people where you can be like, you can take the hood out the person, but you can't take. You take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person. Like, do I still carry some slang or some certain things like that? Can I still joke? Oh, I can still joke with the best of them. But at the same time, I'm not a product of every negative stereotype or every negative connotation that was a part of me before I met Jesus. I am not that person anymore. And I thank God for that. A large part of that helps because I have a lovely wife. Because sometimes when I joke and I take it too far, she'll be like, honey, you can't say that. I'm like, all right, you're right. You're right. My bad. Or I apologize. God uses her as my filter. So God through her is my filter. And I realize, like, I have to cut it back. I need to tone it down. I can't do this. I can't say that. I have to be more mindful, So, God is so good. God is so good. I'm grateful for all the experiences that I have, for all the things that I went through, because I feel like that they help produce the man that I am today. Do I wish I didn't go through some of those things? Yeah, I truly did. I truly do. I wish I never went through some of those things. But again, they help make me to the man that you see today. Like, a lot of people don't believe that I used to be this angry person or this person who went through so much, or they don't believe a lot about me. But again, it's because of how I carry myself and how God has transformed me. And I still have work to, like, God still has work to do on me, because I am not perfect by any means. I still strive every day to be Christ-like. I still strive every day to be closer and closer to him, walk closer and closer with him. But I'm a far cry from who I used to be. I'm a far cry from who I used to be. And I always want people to see that if I can change, if God can change me, then he can change you too. If God can change me, he can change anybody. It's people I know who are far worse than I ever was, who God has changed. Nobody is too far gone that you can't be reached by the hand of God. The only way you are not reached is if you refuse to proclaim, to say that Jesus is Lord. But that's my story. That is my story. I went through so much, and I didn't talk about a lot that I went through just because I felt like I had to be strong. I couldn't tell somebody because I didn't want to be, be looked at as weak. I couldn't tell anybody because I didn't want to be looked at as the B word, or the P word, either one. I didn't want to be looked at, I couldn't tell anybody because I hated being called Gay J. Like I hated these things. And all the while I just wanted to be accepted. As I started getting older, I realized, like, if I don't like how these people are acting, or if I don't like what these people are saying, I just don't have to be around. Like I can go about my business. Like there are many times when we'd be out in the neighborhood, or I'd leave my house and I would see guys in the neighborhood and I would just walk a long way around, because I just didn't feel like getting caught up in the nonsense of whatever, was going to happen on this particular day. Whether it was just joking or being picked on, or people trying to pick on me for no reason. And I don't feel like me having to respond, which then may lead to a fight, or I don't feel like, or they got an issue with another neighborhood. So I don't feel like dealing with the issue where another neighborhood may come on today and now I got to fight. It was one time where I remember, there was a time where I remember I was looking out my window and I saw the guys in the neighborhood. And I saw one of them picked up this large concrete brick, whatever, and threw it at somebody. And the guy who he threw it at picked up and threw it back at him. And then it broke into pieces. And then another guy picked up one of the pieces of the brick and threw it, and it hit the dude in the face. And it was some other stuff that happened, surrounding in that moment. But, as a result of that one incident, one of my friends in the neighborhood got jumped. Those guys came back another day, a van full of them. But on this particular day, there was more of us than it was them. And then they left, and then they came back. And I remember they came through like a swarm. And all I saw was like guys that I knew from the neighborhood who was like running in pairs in different directions. Like, where the heck are y'all going? And then I see that the flood of guys coming around the corner, and somebody was like, hey, they were like, hey, yo, what up? And then I heard somebody say, oh yeah, he's not one of them. And I just thank God for protecting me, because he knew me as somebody who, walked in peace and didn't bother nobody unless you bothered me. He knew me as somebody who wasn't just going out looking for trouble. I told y'all earlier about, the guy who got sent to the hospital and his brother's coming through the neighborhood. Well, when the one who got sent to the hospital, when he was cleared and good to go, I remember one day he came through the neighborhood rolling on bikes with his friends, and it was like 10 of them. And everybody I was with ran, and I was the one person who stood there and didn't go anywhere. But they were looking for one guy in particular, and they're like, where'd he go? I'm like, I don't know. Where'd he go? I don't know. And then they saw him, and then because I lied for my friend, they wanted to try to jump me. And again, nothing happened, but like there were so many instances where I found myself in a situation where somebody wants to try to fight me, or somebody wants to try to jump me as a result of what the guys in the neighborhood did. So I found myself in situations like, I don't feel like dealing with this today, so I'm just not going to be around. I'm going to avoid dealing with any of this. I don't want no parts. And it helped keep me out of a lot of trouble. Part of it was too, just because like my parents were always in my ear, not that they didn't. Well, my mom really didn't mind me hanging out. My dad, if it was up to him, I would be in the house all day, because he felt like the guys in the neighborhood were the worst, and they weren't the worst. They weren't the worst. They were just, I would just say they were just teenage boys. Now I wouldn't want my kids in those situations. So I understand what my dad was saying, but like character wise, they weren't the worst people. And I say that because even though they were fighting and doing all these different other things, these guys also smoked. These guys also drank. They never peer pressure me into smoking. They never peer pressure me into drinking. Never, ever. You know, they knew I didn't smoke and they respected that. They knew I didn't drink and respected that. And they left me alone as a result. And that's why I always say like they weren't the worst. And I respect them for those things. But my dad was one of those people. You gotta be home when the street lights go on. If you home 1 second after the street lights come on, then it's a punishment. You know, my mom was a little more lenient, but they always instilled good character in us. Always instilled good character in us. And I think those reasons, and that is a large part of the reason why I chose not to be around different things. You know, I was just like, I don't have it in me today to be around the nonsense. I don't have it in me today to be around the foolishness. Or, you know, I don't have it in me today and I might go off on somebody. I don't have it in me today and it might lead to a fight. You know, I'm the type person, or I was a type person. Like if we get into a fight, like there are a lot of people who be like, oh yeah, you and your friends, sometimes you just got to fight it out and then you cool again. I'm not that type person. Like if I got into a physical fight, you and me are beefing forever. Like that's how I felt. Now, I've been in fights with people and, you know, since that time, like we've cool, we made up. But back then it was like, nah, if we fight, we beefing forever. Like that's how I felt. But oh man, this was a great release. This was a great release. But yeah, that's who I was. Angry, hot-headed. Man, I used to wear so much red that people thought I was a blood. I actually got confronted by some Crips one time, which was very interesting. I got off the school bus one day wearing a red shirt, black khakis, red, white, and black shoes, and a red, white, and black Maryland hat. And some guys confronted me like, what you claim? And I'm like, nothing. And they're like, I like the hat. I was like, I like it too. And then it didn't process until afterwards that these guys were wearing blue and they were driving a blue van. It's like, oh, okay. So these were Crips. Like, again, like even in the midst of me like being inundated in a lot of this stuff, I was still innocent because I just didn't know. You know, I didn't know. I remember being in this neighborhood. So the neighborhood that I lived in high school, it was called Pinewood Lake. And I remember that it was Pinewood Lake, but we called it Pete Woods. Like as the neighborhood was getting crazy, we called it Pete Woods. And I remember this just going along with everything that I've been saying. This guy who I was cool with wanted to fight me because now I'm saying Pete Woods. Like, you and I have been cool. Like, what is the issue? Like, I genuinely don't get it. Why do you now have an issue with me because I'm saying this? You know, but that's when I started learning that just like you can be cool with somebody, but as soon as you say something that they don't like, as soon as you rap something that they don't like, then now it has to be an issue. And those are things I just didn't like. But at this point now, I feel like I'm just rambling. And I don't like throwing out people's names just because I don't like throwing out people's names. But God is good. God is good, man. God is good. God is good. God is good. I am not who I used to be. I am who I am today. I'm a far cry from who I used to be. And some people, it's so interesting because some people will look at me now and they'll be like, oh, you're still such and such. Oh, you're still such and such. Like, I can't joke. Like, I can't laugh. Some people, you know, will hear me joke and think that I'm still that same person. Like, I'll even have some people say, oh, you're still an a-hole. I'm like, I'd rather you not call me that. But, you know, just because I can laugh and joke doesn't mean that my heart hasn't changed. Because my heart has changed a lot. Now, when I don't forgive people, I feel convicted. When I get angry, I feel convicted. You know, when I want to go off on, there was this one time when I wanted to go off on somebody about what they did. And as I was going to that person, the Lord actually started convicting me and made me ask for forgiveness. And I'm just like, it made me apologize. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, I need the apology. I need him to. But again, like that, I am now at a point where it's like the heart, like I truly have that heart of the Father in the sense, or I strive to have the heart of the Father in the sense, like whatever the Father desires for me, like that's what I want to be. That's what I need to be. That's what I need to do. So if I need to forgive somebody, let me forgive. If I need to apologize, let me apologize. If I need to let go of old feelings, of old emotions, of old mindsets, then let me do so. Let me do that very thing. So, but anyway, I appreciate y'all listening. This was good to get off my chest. This was very good to get off my chest. But this was my life before Jesus. This was my life before Jesus. You know, I never wanted to be one of those people who is like, I haven't been saved all my life, or I'm from the south side of the kingdom, because God changed me for a reason. He changed me so I don't have to be that person. I don't have to be that person, of who I am at 38 is not who I was at 18. And no person should stay the same for 20 years, for 38 years, for whatever. Like, you should never stay the same. You should always change and adapt. But anyway, I'm really done now. I appreciate y'all for listening. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Did I say the like button? I guess if you're on YouTube, you can like and subscribe. Follow, subscribe from wherever you're listening to the podcast. I want to have my wife on a future episode. I would also love to have my siblings on a future episode, just so we can talk about, some of the things that, our upbringing, but also, from there to being in church and, relationship with Jesus. I'd be open to having anybody on the show, honestly, anybody who's interested, but I have to have my wife first, and then I would love to have my siblings. Anybody after that, if you'd be interested in being a guest on a podcast, then message me on Instagram. You can shoot me a comment on Spotify, on YouTube, whatever. So, all right, y'all. Until next time, it was great. Great talking to y'all today. Peace out. Until next time.